Hello and welcome to Unsportsmanlike Conduct, the show where two British brothers talk all things NFL. I'm your host, Dom Corbs, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nick Corbs. And Nick, today we're going to be going over the Senior Bowl winners and losers.
Yeah, Dom, it's the first Sunday since September without football on this weekend. So it's a preview of what to come. A lot of draft content is going to be coming, and I'm excited to get into these players, Dom.
A lot of draft content will be coming, and a lot of draft content has already been. So if you're enjoying draft content, then make sure you subscribe. We just posted, a few days ago, we posted our edge rankings, which may or may not crop up again today with a few players maybe rising or falling. So make sure you go and watch that if you haven't already. Some new graphics were added, and I'll put some more graphics on this because I just love the channel. So the way this is going to work is me and Nu are going to choose basically 5 of our top winners and then a few quote unquote losers. Before we get into that, though, I kind of want to preface all of this by first of all saying that me and Nu have not coordinated on our winners and losers, so there's a strong chance that we might have the same person. If that is the case, I'll try and shout out another person as well, or Nu might. And before we then get into the real nitty gritty, tape is still king, right, with these guys. Like, it's not the Senior Bowl is not where a player can suddenly play his way into being the first overall pick. That's not what the Senior Bowl is. Never has been, never will be. It's more about kind of seeing smaller school guys or seeing guys play different positions, seeing how guys weigh in. A lot of it is the interviews that teams get to do with players at the Senior Bowl, which is massive. So I know there's a lot of hype surrounding a few reps you'll see on Twitter, and rightly so, people do rise and fall. It's not completely irrelevant. It's great to see how players are in the one-on-ones. But that isn't to say that suddenly because someone's going to have a great Senior Bowl, they're now going to be a top 5 lock when previously they were a day 2 pick. That's just not how it really works. And we'll talk more, I think, about the defensive line and wide receivers and how the Senior Bowl is skewed towards them winning, I think, when it comes to those positions. Who was your biggest winner? Because I think this might kick off the discussion.
Well, so my biggest winner of the whole weekend, or the whole week rather, is someone who you could have predicted before. It's Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss.
Okay.
I thought he was a massive winner in this. And maybe it's because one of my losers really underperformed. But Jackson Dart was already rising up draft boards. If you go back to our previous mock draft, I say that Jackson Dart will most likely be a first-round pick. He's going to get overdrafted. And that's, I think, what the Senior Bowl proved again. He showed a bit more pushing the ball downfield, which didn't necessarily show on tape, which I think is very good for NFL execs to see that, in Ole Miss, it was much more lateral, a lot more screens, a lot more of a spread offense. It looks slightly better, but it's more, like you say, Dom, the interview stuff. And, the Giants love him and Eli Manning loves him. And, Dom, he's not getting out the first round after this week.
I think that's mental. One of my losers.
Really?
I've said the devil works hard, but Jackson Dart's agent works harder because he didn't do anything at the scene. I don't think he hurt his stock. I don't think he played badly. But I've seen people like yourself and like other people online and stuff being like, "Oh, Jackson Dart, played his way into being a." How? What did he do? Like he played fine. Like I think he is, potentially QB3 in this draft. I don't know, but I would not class. I also as the biggest winner.
Well, Dominic, all the guys we're going to talk about have definitely risen their stock. But to rise your stock to the point where you're basically a nailed-on first-round pick, I think makes you the biggest winner, even if it's deserved or not.
I think that's good. I don't think he is. I don't think he is guaranteed to be a first-round pick.
Well, Dom, in a weak quarterback class, his tape isn't bad. I don't think it's anything special. I don't think he's worth a first-round pick. I would think I have a mid-second round grade on him. But ever since the offseason started in college football, he's only been getting more and more and more hype. I genuinely think his floor is the Giants in the second round. I genuinely believe that is Jackson Dart's floor in this draft class.
I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked. Like, I can't believe he has any first round buzz. Even like I don't know what he did at the Senior Bowl. Obviously, look, we're not behind closed doors. Maybe the teams do love him in the interview process. But I like the fact that Adam Schefter also tweeted it, being like a person who saw his stock rise massively was Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. Like that to me stinks of agent speak. Like he is a mouthpiece for agents so much of the time, and I just don't think he did anything, at least on the field, that I could have seen that would have possibly risen his stock. Look, I will make a bet with you right here and now on the pod now. Okay, I'll make a bet with you.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart is not a first round player. He won't be drafted in the first round.
Wait, a first round player or first round pick are two different things. I don't think he's a first round player, but I think he's going to be a first
So
round
you think
pick.
he will
So
be?
I think he's going to be drafted in the first round, and I could see him going. I could see him going as high as the 20s. Genuinely.
I'm so confident that Jackson Dart is not going to be a first round pick. I'm so confident in that fact. I will bet you right now, Nu, on the pod, in front of our thousands of listeners, I will bet you 50 quid. Genuinely 50 quid.
Well, I don't have 50 quid, so I'll bet you 2 beers.
Okay,
As
all right,
my
two
mind's
beers,
taking
two
it.
beers, two beers. We'll call it two beers. That is, I'm stunned. Usually we're quite in alignment on this channel here, but that is not where I saw that going. Because, like I said, Jackson Dart is one of my losers. I would say just pure. Well, not a loser per se, but is not someone that was on my biggest winners. See, for me, Nu, I think the biggest winner of the week was Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from NDSU. He clocked in at 6'5" and 3/8, 316 pounds. He does have 32 and a quarter inch arms. He did play tackle at NDSU. He's now going to play guard or center at the next level. He spent 5 years at NDSU, North Dakota State University, was started for the last 3 years. He was absolutely dominant at tackle and guard. This is exactly what the Senior Bowl is for. It's to see these players play a different position against premier talent, right? Which he was not doing at NDSU. For me, you said that Jackson Dart was someone who, was on the front, maybe a mid second round pick and is now going to play his way into the first round. That's Gray Zabel for me. I think I'd be looking at Gray Zabel as high as the Texans at 25. Like, as a Texans fan, I would happily take Gray Zabel. He was just dominant at the Senior Bowl, completely dominant. He's pro ready, big, physical, quick. He's got a strong lower half. He was taking on Senior Bowl defenders on a walk in the run game. Like, I saw him block a guy off the screen. And he won the overall practice player of the week as voted by the 32 NFL team executives, basically. So the NFL loves this guy already. And NDSU is a program which has churned out NFL offensive linemen now for years. And my pro comparison for Zabel is Graham Barton, not necessarily in the way they play, but similarly that he also came from NDSU. He's also playing from the outside, playing inside now for the Bucs, and he's been a force multiplier for the Buccaneers offensive line. Like, him at center has been a revolution for that team. Like, he's been so dominant this year, and I think Zabel can have a similar impact because he can play anywhere along the interior offensive line, left guard, right guard, center. He's done all at the Senior Bowl and has looked great at all three positions. And a final shout out for the offensive line then. Do you have any winners?
Well, yeah, so I just want to add on that, Dom. He is also benefiting from a very, very weak interior offensive line class.
Yes.
Now, the probably number one is Will Campbell. I would personally try him out at tackle and then probably kick him inside or, vice versa. But as a pure, obviously he's still transitioning, but he is a guard. No one's going to drop him as a tackle.
Yeah.
He's drafted as an interior lineman. He's probably first on most people's big boards, or definitely up there for sure. Like, if you look at the PFF board, for example, most of them ranked as third round picks. So he's really played his way into probably a sizable more contract.
Yeah, I like that shout. I think he will be the first pure interior offensive lineman on draft day taken. Personally, Will Campbell can shift inside. Some people like Kelvin Banks shifting inside. There's a lot of tackles that people might prefer at guard in this class, but just as a pure interior offensive line, he's definitely not going to play at tackle. I think Gray Zabel is going to be that guy. Exactly right. Do you have anyone else on the offensive line before I move on to my shout out?
I don't actually have anyone else on the offensive line.
So the other person,
I've got a few D linemen, but no one on the offensive line.
We'll get to D line. Yeah. Don't worry, we'll definitely get to D line. My shout out then for this is Josh Connolly Jr., the offensive tackle from Oregon.
As a winner,
yeah. So he lost that one really bad rep to Mike Green when he got run over. But apart from that, he had a really, really good week. Like, a really good week. Like, he was also voted as one of the better players there by the players. And I think he's going to be taken fairly early in the draft. Yeah, I know that one rep went viral and everyone went mad for it. And it was a great rep. I love Mike Green. I absolutely love Mike Green. But losing one rep badly does not make you a loser. He actually had a really solid week overall. So I wanted to give Josh Connolly a shout out.
Well, Dom, can I quickly jump in there? Because I didn't have him quite as a loser. But for a player like Mike Conley, when you are ranked as a first-round pick, the Senior Bowl more or less often hurts than it does help. Because you're going against people who are weaker competition, lower ranked. And the big thing for me with Josh Connolly is I'm really afraid about his ability to handle power and power rushes. Obviously, you bring up that Mike Green clip, which went viral, getting put in the dirt. And he did have an overall great practice, but it did happen one or two more times. And in the NFL, that power rush move is by far the most used move. So it really does scare me because he's a big guy. He already has that play strength. If you're constantly getting beaten by power, it might be a rough rookie season for him, and it might affect his draft stock more than it helps.
I mean, the thing is there, you're right to point that out, is that I have Mike Green ranked ahead of Josh Connolly. Like, I don't have Josh Connolly as a top 10, definitely not a top 10 player, not even likely top 15. I kind of like him in the later half of the first round, whereas I like Mike Green anywhere inside the top 12, frankly. So, like, Green is a superior player, so I would expect him to win that. And like we're saying, New, like, offensive linemen aren't designed to win these reps because they are designed for defensive linemen to thrive because, first of all, there's so much space, right? Even as a tackle, you don't have help on one of your shoulders. So if you're a left tackle, you don't have help on the left. If you played right tackle, you don't have help on the right. But you've still got help on the interior for the most part. Like, maybe not someone blocking, but there's bodies in that space. Whereas now in these one-on-ones, these defensive linemen can literally go anywhere. Like, you see them running across like where the guards would essentially be on some reps to try and like win on the inside. Like, so for me, I'm not that fussed about it. I get the concern. I know the rep was, went viral, so people are going to be like, oh my God, but I think it was more just a great rep from Mike Green than like a killer one from Josh Connolly. But then, New, who's your second winner?
So mine, I'm sort of grouping them as the tight end class. I thought Howard Fannin and Elijah Arroyo, the tight ends out of Bowling Green and Miami, respectively, both had very good weeks. And I think this tight end class is super deep, super talented. And I'm not worried that because it's good, they're going to get drafted later. I think they're actually all getting pushed up. I think they're all dragging each other up, which I think is an important thing to mention. But Dom, like you said, the one-on-ones, especially for receivers and cornerbacks, is completely skewed toward receivers. They have about 10 seconds to run a route that normally takes 2 seconds. Name of the game in the NFL is to get as deep as you can, as quick as you can, and they're doing 5 or 6 stutter steps. As a corner, as a linebacker, you have no chance. So I'm not too focused about what they're doing in practice, but they still showed out. They had great route running, great hands, and I reckon they played themselves into definitely a second-round pick.
Yeah, I have Elijah Arroyo as a massive winner. He was like my fourth ranked winner. Yeah, my fourth ranked winner. Like, I loved what he showed at the Senior Bowl. He came in at 6'4.5", 251 pounds, which is a bit heavier than was expected, but he looked every bit as athletic. He was explosive, showed his fluidity with his route running, looked great on the one-on-ones, moving more like a wide receiver, which at almost 6'5", 250 pounds is fantastic. And he's got a massive catch radius as well. So he spent 4 years at Miami. 2024 was his only proper year because of an ACL injury, which he took a bit longer to recover from. But this guy has natural receiving ability, New. And I think you saw that shine at the Senior Bowl, really. Like, he had one drop this whole year for Miami. Like, he's a tight end who can threaten vertically up the seams. I can't wait to see what he's going to run at the combine, because this guy has legit speed. He this season was clocked at running 21.8 miles per hour. Only 6 NFL players this year topped that speed. And like I said, 6'4.5", 251 pounds. I think Elijah Arroyo could be what Kyle Pitts promised to be, essentially.
That's a crazy take, Dom. That is crazy.
How's that crazy?
He's got no production. I think he had a great week, but his college tape was pretty disappointing, if you ask me.
Because he's
great
been
offense. He didn't play very well.
He's been injured for 3 years.
I was in the past year, he only had 500 yards and I believe 5 touchdowns on an offense with the number 1 overall pick, most likely.
Yeah, but that's also because there's Xavier Restrepo on that offense. Like, Cam Ward's also a rushing threat. Like, it's not like it was Harold Fannin, where he's literally the only person on the offense that can catch a pass. Like, I think Elijah Arroyo has played his way to being the third tight end. I think for me, he's now ahead of Harold Fannin Jr. I actually think that Harold Fannin Jr., again, not a loser for me, but I thought he looked pretty stiff to begin the week. Like, when I was seeing the clips of him on the one-on-ones, he was moving like a wooden board out there. And he does not have the speed that Arroyo has, or the weight. Like, Arroyo has 15 pounds on Harold Fannin. Like, he can actually be used as an inline tight end who can take the top off. Fannin, yeah, he came in eight pounds heavier than expected. He was kind of playing the season at 130-ish pounds, came in at 230 pounds, came in at 238? Am I getting this right?
238. 138 would not be tight end.
Sorry, 238. So he obviously put a bit of weight on and still had a good week, don't get me wrong, but like, I think that he's a loser in the sense that he lost the tight end 3 battle to Elijah Arroyo. Personally, like, I prefer Fannin's tape, and maybe I'm being a bit of a hypocrite and buying into the Senior Bowl too much, which is what I was warning about at the top of the show, right? Like, tape is still king. I'm not moving Fannin down because he didn't play well. I'm moving Arroyo up because I think he did, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not penalising Fannin for a fine week. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, he's not a loser for me, but I don't know, man. Just seeing that physical ability from Arroyo on the field against like good talent. I wouldn't take him in the first. I don't think. Like I'd only still take Loveland and Warren as the only two tight ends in the first. But so Carl Pitts was drafted 8th overall. Like I'm not taking Arroyo with the 8th overall pick. But like I think with speed, size, catchability, like ability to go vertical from the seam, like that's what Carl Pitts was meant to be. He's just not really been that. Like, so that's why I have that comp.
For me, he's in the same tier as Arunde Gadsden, Eli Stowers, these lower tiered ranked tight ends. I still think I'm very high on them. I still in their second round picks, but I think they have a similar frame but have more production at college, and the lack of production, Dom, does scare me off.
Oh, here we go. See, there's trouble in paradise. We've always been so aligned, and suddenly
we have actually. Yeah.
Suddenly we're beginning to veer away. It's like civil war on the pod. So we've had two winners each. Who else do you have for us, Nu?
So, Dom, the Senior Bowl MVP and probably the story of the week and the story that you'll see in the news, Jack Betch. Was it Jack Betch or Jack Beach?
Betch.
Jack Betch, tight end out of TCU. And obviously, the stories are there because his brother was killed in the New Orleans terrorist attacks just a couple months back. So, obviously, that was the big news. But I think he's more than just a story, Dom. He is, in his own right, a great player and a great prospect. And originally went to LSU, transferred to TCU, had 1,000 yards this year. 6'1", good speed. I've still got him out of third. I think he played his way into a day 2 pick, to be honest with you, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, he, like you say, Nu, his brother was tragically killed in the New Orleans terror attack a few weeks ago. So, like, everyone is rooting for this guy just personally. He came in at 6'1" and a quarter, 212 pounds. He's already getting Puka Nacua comparisons, which I really don't hate at all. I really don't hate. Like, is he going to break the rookie receiving record for catches? No, he's not going to be a high volume receiving threat like that. But I think he wins in very similar ways to Puka Nacua. He catches everything, like you say. He had one drop this year, Nu, one drop the whole year. That 50-50 ball from Jackson Dart on that kind of like post, came down with it, contested catch, brilliant. He's got a 65% contested catch rate this year, which is super high. Like Roma Dunze had like 68, and that's been one of the 72 or something like that. And that's been the highest that that PFF have charted in recent years. So to have 65 is really good. And he's only, he's quote unquote only, but he's only 6'1". Like he's not like he's 6'8" and is, just a jump ball specialist. Like he genuinely has great ball skills. He had 62 receptions this year for TCU for 1,034 yards, 9 touchdowns, 338 yards after the catch. Like, this guy is competitive, athletic. He's a ball winner, big catch radius, great hands. He's actually a converted tight end, I believe.
I did not know that.
He's great at blocking. Like, he's a great inline blocker, which is what Nacua does. He's versatile. He can play from the slot, out wide, can even line up in line as a pseudo tight end if needs be. Like, that's not obviously where you'd play him. Like, he's a receiver, not a tight end. But, like, his history and the way he wins gives him so much versatility, which is fantastic for an offense. I think he's a firm day 2 pick at this point.
Yeah, I'd love him on my Giants as a compliment outside.
Yeah,
because also with the new modern NFL receiver, you see a lot more as the slot being the first option. So having a genuine guy who can play on the outside, and Dom, you're right to point out his versatility, but he can play on the outside and hang out there, because of his size, because of his physicality. And yeah, he's versatile, is going to get snaps his rookie season. And more than anything, Dom, I just think he put his name. It made me watch his tape, which I hadn't done before, which I think is what the Senior Bowl should do. You shouldn't be, this guy's amazing. It should be like, okay, I need to look at this guy more. And then you realize how good he is, because all things you see in the Senior Bowl, you see on tape. So I really like him, Dom. I'm wishing him all the best, and hopefully he'll have his name called early on draft day.
Yeah, he's a baller, man. I want him on my team. I think every fan is going to want Jack Betch on their team, because who doesn't want a guy like that on their team? Sorry, like, what a baller. And my shout out for the receivers, Tez Johnson, he was always going to look good in this kind of setting. He did come in insanely light, like 150 pounds, 155 pounds, I think, like lighter than Tank Dell. Like he was
Oh.
serious. In fact, I got to get it up just to make sure I have this right because I have the official measurements. But he was always going to look good in this kind of setting, because he's a receiver who wins by, being shifty and with suddenness and, like with all that space, it was always going to be a foregone conclusion. Yeah. So Tez Johnson, 5'9" and a quarter, small, 156 pounds. Like, that is pretty mental. Like, that is pretty mental. I still love this guy. I don't care about his weight. He was never going to be heavy. He's never going to be heavy. I think the comparison between him and Tank Dell is so apt. Like, so apt. So I'm still taking him on day 2, 100%. But I'll kick off the, fourth winner now? I'll kick off our fourth winner. From the interior defensive line, I've got Darius? Darius. Why am I saying it like that? Darius Alexander from Toledo. Have you heard about him, Nu?
I actually haven't.
Nor had I until the Senior Bowl, which is exactly what the Senior Bowl's for. So he's 6'3" and 5'8", 304 pounds, 34-inch arms. He spent 5 years at Toledo, 37 pressures, 4 sacks this year. Played most as a defensive tackle. This guy was killing the Senior Bowl, like really killing it. He even won a rep, bearing in mind that he's a defensive tackle, not a nose tackle, but like defensive tackle, like playing anywhere between the A gap and the C gap, basically. So like over the guards. He won from a 2-point stance as a wide 9. So like miles outside the tackle, lined up like a Von Miller type of edge rusher. Like he's so good with his hands during the one-on-ones, moves incredibly well for someone who's closer to 6'4". He was winning quickly with power and finesse. Like one of the things you'll see from some defensive linemen is, like you said with the wide receivers, like with them taking ages to run routes. You'll see defensive linemen just like having this most mental pass rush plan where they're like fake inside, fake outside, try and bull rush, spin move. Like they're just like kind of spamming buttons on Madden. And yeah, fine, they might eventually quote unquote win the rep, but like in the NFL, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. But this guy was winning just consistently, quickly, like within like 2.5 seconds. He wins with power and finesse. He had a great tackle for loss in the actual game. He's been elite against the run and the pass this year. He even had an interception against Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh game is insane, by the way. You've got to watch that film, Nu. He's constant in the backfield, and I see shades of, and I realize actually I'm being not deliberately hyperbolic. I do believe in like the kind of Kyle Pitts comparison when I was given like he could be what Kyle Pitts was promised to be, and who else? What the other comparisons? I can't remember, but what I've got now for Darius Alexander is I've got shades of. Okay, emphasis on shades of. Okay,
It's going to be something outrageous here. It's going to be shades of.
I think you're going to hate this, Nu. Shades of Chris Jones.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. La la.
So the reason why I say that, again, look, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not saying he is going to be Chris Jones. I'm just saying that they win in similar ways. Like if you're looking for someone's play style who he plays like, to imagine in your heads as listeners, Chris Jones. He's disruptive, polished pass rusher from the interior defensive line position, dominant against the run. Like this guy is not going to be Chris Jones. I'm not saying that he's going to come in and be one of the best defensive tackles in the game, one of the best defensive players in the game, like Super Bowl winner, game changer, etc., etc. He's not going to be drafted in the first round, or he's not going to be taken on day 1. So it's not like that. But if you want a guy, and also he's from Toledo, smaller school, but this guy's really good. This guy is really, really good. I didn't know he existed before this week. I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm not some draft savant. We have other things we like to do in our free time, me and you. So funny enough, I haven't been churning out the Toledo tape. But I think he's played his way into being a potential top 50 pick, if not just like a definite day 2 pick. And I think he'll be a really great addition to a team who might have to pass on a pass rusher essentially in the first round or on the first 50 picks.
Well, I'll be sure to check him out. Similarly, on the defensive line, I have Savion Jones.
Oh, I've not seen him.
So he's LSU, 6'5", 250, 260 pounds, a big guy, but he's playing on the edge at his time at LSU, which I think was horribly mismanaged. But this time at the Senior Bowl, they sort of moved him slightly more inside, more as like a 4-3 defensive interior, more of a pass rusher. He's not a nose tackle by any means, but he really looked good against guards. He looked about as depth against tackles on the one-on-ones, but when he went up against the other interior guys, he showed a lot of flash and a lot of upside. So his tape isn't actually as impressive as it should be because I think he's being played out of position, But at the Senior Bowl, he showed to NFL scouts what he could look like at a different position at the NFL level.
Nice. Well, like you're saying, we need to grind some more tape. We're not there yet. We're
Yeah.
still a long way away from the draft, so we don't know everyone.
7-round mock incoming soon.
those 7-rounders, mate. Get ready.
So shoot, yeah.
This long snapper from William and Mary looks very tempting. So, final winner and loser each then, New.
You go for your winner first, Dom, because I think I'm more of a skeptic than you when it comes to the Senior Bowl. So,
well, I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
And my final winner is Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M, who we spoke about in our last edge rusher episode. Again, if you want to hear more about the edge rushers, because not all of them played at the Senior Bowl, go and listen to that. But he came in 6'5", 1/8, 281 pounds. So he actually lost a bit, well, not lost a bit of weight, but came in a bit lighter than he was expected to. 34.25-inch arms, so had all the length that it looked like he had on tape. He played well. He played so well over the first 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. He went home. He was done. Didn't need to put out anything more. Like that's when you know you've had a good Senior Bowl, when you can leave early, basically. Like you can clock out. Like he was my 5th ranked edge, and I think he was one of your honorable mentions.
Yeah, 6th. I still haven't managed a late first round.
Like I think I might have to bump him up to like 4th now, because I think he's going to be a top 20 player. I think when it's all said and done, like he showed completely that deadly use of length and power that we were talking about just last week. Like he came in, like I said, touch lighter, 281 pounds versus the 290 we kind of thought he was playing at. But he lost none of that explosiveness, lost none of that power, and he won in so many other ways. Like obviously his power and his length is his calling card. Like it's elite. But he also won with just pure power. He ran through the Kansas offensive tackle, put him literally on his arse. One with speed around the edge, one with inside counters, one with speed to power. Like, I love what he put on tape at the Senior Bowl. Like I said, against premier competition, we have his official measurables, which stack up to what we've seen on tape. And if anything, the weight is lighter, which means he's quicker, but can still be just as powerful and explosive. And I think this guy's going to be a really good number 2 edge rusher, potential, maybe could be even more than that. But like, I think his floor is really high from what we're seeing from him on tape and also at the Senior Bowl. Like, I really like Shamar Stewart now.
I'm not surprised he had a great week. And same with Mike Green. He only did 2 days and went home as well, which is also so cool. So much awe. Literally just doing 2 practices, bullying first round picks, and just being like, right, I've had enough of this. Got better things to do.
Yeah.
Super cool. But yeah, I had no doubt that he wasn't going to perform well in the Senior Bowl because he is so strong. He does have those pass rush moves. My issues I see more on tape are stuff that you can't really answer in the Senior Bowl or at the Combine or on private workouts. It's the tackling for me, Dom. That's a big thing. It's finishing of plays. But on the one-on-ones, Dom, even I have to admit, and I'm not as high on him as you are, he looked bloody good, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was absolutely walking these guys. And of course, it's slightly skewed towards them. But every single play, it was just killing them. And Dom, he's definitely a first-round pick. I might have to rejig my edge rankings, but he's still definitely, high draft pick.
Well, this is the fun thing after the Senior Bowl is redoing our rankings. And do you have one more winner before we get on to our losers, or should we get straight to the losers?
Yeah, so I've actually got a loser on the defensive line, Dom. Kick us off. Because who I was higher on than you was Landon Jackson, defensive lineman out of Arkansas.
Nice.
And the reason why I don't think he had a bad week at all, Dom. I thought he was fine, but he shouldn't be fine. For a player that he's marking himself on is consistently winning, consistently being a good tackler, like a good amount of pressures, being in the right place at the right time. He looked really behind the pace, Dom. He looked really slow. He didn't show that versatility. He wasn't beating tackles, guards, and centers. He really looked very limited, much more limited athlete than I thought he was going to be. Because I thought his biggest strength would be that he'd be plug and play straight away at the NFL level. Week 1, he's going to be playing 3 downs for you. And after the Senior Bowl, against lower level competition, he showed nothing, no flair. He was just fine. And I thought because he was playing against SEC competition, that might have just been because he's playing high level. Even against these, Division 3 guys, he still looked like a bloke. And I think that's maybe dropped into a 3rd round pick for me.
Yeah, Landon Jackson was a big one. He's not like one of my official losers, but he was on the ground a lot of the time, which you can't be, because you can't be impacting the play less if you're on the floor. Like, even if you're being stood up by an offensive lineman, you can still potentially stack and shed and tackle in a gap, or contain the quarterback in the pocket. If you're on the floor, you're literally completely useless. And he just spent too much time on the ground. And I think you're right, Need to point him out as someone that, yeah, look, he's not suddenly undraftable. Like, it's not something like we have to go and burn up what we thought about him pre-combine, pre-Senior Bowl, sorry. But it is concerning that he didn't go there and dominate like he kind of needed to, really, to kind of cement himself as a second round pick, probably, maybe even the back end of the first, depending on where you have him. But yeah, I think he might have taken a little bit of a knock, maybe lost a little bit of money in the Senior Bowl. I, though, think that the biggest loser for me by far was Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, 100%. He's my biggest loser as well, Dom.
Yeah, like it's a funny one for quarterbacks, the Senior Bowl, because it's really hard. It's a really hard environment. You have no chemistry with your offensive line or with your wide receivers. You have to learn a completely new offensive system. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's hardly you're not getting an NFL playbook, but you've got to kind of get to grips with a new playbook, new timing. Like I said, new players. Like, he kicked off the week with a really bad measurement. Kicked off the week with 8 3/4 inch hands, which is a big talking point.
Kenny Pickett hands.
Exactly. Hands are a big talking point with quarterbacks. Infamously, Joe Burrow had 9-inch hands, and suddenly people were saying that he was going to be undraftable. Having smaller hands does not necessarily mean that you're not going to be a good quarterback. However, Jalen Milroe's hands are even smaller than Joe Burrow's, and so 8 3/4 inch is going to be second percentile, which is really small. The only other quarterback to be drafted in the first round, which I don't think Jalen Milroe was ever going to be anyway, but just as context, the only other, like you said, first round quarterback to be drafted with hands less than 9 inches is Kenny Pickett with 8.5. And that guy plays with 2 gloves, I think, or at least we've seen him play with 2 gloves. And Milroe already has ball security problems. 11 fumbles this year, 13 fumbles last year. Like, the NFL football compared to the college football is a bigger ball. There's less time to hold it. You're trying to play against stronger, quicker, better athletes. If that's already a problem at the college level, that's only really going to be amplified in the NFL. And like I said, like, he threw an interception in the game. And to be fair, I'm not trying to dog on him for that at all. Like, you could see he was under center. That it was a bad snap. He couldn't get his feet in rhythm. He threw a bad pass to the linebacker in the underneath zone. The linebacker from Notre Dame, who actually was also a big winner, but we're not going to speak about him now. But he looked like he did at Alabama, frankly. Up and down, very inconsistent. Lots of pretty major concerns, I would say. But, like, can you quit the potential there with Jalen Milroe? Like, is this really going to harm his stock per se? Like, he was never going to be a first round player, personally. I think that's kind of in line with consensus. I don't even really think he would have been a day 2 draft pick, barring like a great.
I think that's harsh.
I mean, to be fair, the combine's still there. If he runs like a 4.5 at the combine, then maybe, it will bump him back up again, because he is an athletic freak who's going to thrive in that environment. Like, he'll be like an Anthony Richardson. He'll jump out the gym. He'll run a really quick 40. But, God, just throwing the football, Jalen Milroe's not very good at it.
Well, I think you're being a bit harsh to him to say he was going to be a day 2 pick. Like, during the season, people were mocking him to go first overall, which is obviously, in hindsight, a bit reactionary. But he still had all this hype. And if he had a good Senior Bowl, he really could have played his way up. But the issue I have, Dom, is obviously the potential. You see the potential. But I was shocked about how far away he is for being an NFL quarterback. Like, watching even just his throwing in practice, it looks like maybe it's his coach trying to retool him. I know his feet and his body are completely out of order. He's completely out of state. He's got poor accuracy, poor deep accuracy. He's obviously got the athletic ability, and he does have an absolute rocket on him. But there's so many fundamental technical issues that you need to iron out, that it's a 2-3 year investment, most likely, till he's a playable quarterback. And you're right, no one's drafting that in the first round. Maybe someone might draft it in the second, but it's really, really bad. I was really shocked. He's the only person that I thought, like, actually had a actively bad Senior Bowl. I thought everyone else, it's okay, it's a bit of a shame, they could always play better. but I was genuinely shocked watching his practice tape and watching even in the game. He looked out of his depth, which is insane talking about an Alabama quarterback.
Yeah, also
No,
like, it's hard as a quarterback to have like a really bad game because everyone knows that it's a really hard environment to do well in. Like, I don't think any of the quarterbacks, like we said at the beginning, even with Jackson Dart, which you disagree with, but I don't think any of the quarterbacks did well, and that's because it's like I said, it's not an environment which is predisposed to them doing well in, because you're thrown to blokes you've never thrown to before. Your hand is literally like up the behind of a centre you've never even spoken to. Like, you're with coaches who you have never met before or have never conversed with. You're operating an offense which you might not have done when you were in college. Like, it's really hard. It's really hard. So it's not the fact that Milroe like necessarily played badly. It's just the fact that like he didn't. I mean, he did play badly, kind of, but like it was a bad measurement with his hands, and he just showed exactly what he did on tape, which is that he's, like you say, needs developing as a quarterback pretty seriously. And then from what I would just wrap up with saying, and feel free to jump in here, is that what I said, kind of to bring it back to the top, is that the quarterback class generally, I think, were losers from the Senior Bowl. Like, obviously Milroe specifically, and we've spoken about Jackson Dart as well. Maybe people agree, maybe people disagree, but I thought that no one really separated themselves from the pack here when there's a wide open QB3 battle. I think, sure, Jackson Dart would be my QB3 now, but like Dylan Gabriel, he maybe looked the best there, but again, he relies on anticipation and timing to win. When you've got no chemistry with your wide receivers, that's pretty difficult. I think Tyler Scher looked interesting, the quarterback from Louisville. I watched his tape recently a few days ago, and the first thing I saw was a play when him against, who is it against? But he ripped a fade down the sideline for like 55 air yards. Like, this guy's got a live arm. But the geezer's 25. He's been playing quarterback since the Obama administration. So it's a bit tricky with this year's quarterback class. I think that it really is, and I know people have been saying it for months, but it really is like a 2022 Kenny Pickett-esque quarterback class.
Yeah, Dom, there's that second tier of guys. You've got, the Kyle McCords of the world. You've got the Tyler Sharks, all of those. One of them's going to get overdrafted, but yeah, they're not very good.
Well, we've had some technical difficulties. We did lose New there, but anyway, it is the end of the episode. Those are our winners and losers quote unquote, from the Senior Bowl. If you agree or disagree, feel free to let us know in the comments. If we've missed anyone, let us know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for more NFL draft content, because me and New are going to be churning this stuff out. We're almost at 700 subscribers, which is fantastic, and thank you everyone for supporting and listening. But let's keep it going. I really want this to just continue to grow over the draft process. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. Usually somewhere over there, that's my co-host, Nick Corbs. We've been Unsportsmanlike Conduct. We'll see you on the next one.